All right, everyone. I know that this episode is so timely because it's July. And if you're like me, you are probably on vacation somewhere or thinking about taking a break or taking a break at home or just taking a break at period, right? So, anyway, when it comes to taking a break, that's exactly what you need when you've been going and going. And I don't know about you, but it feels like this past year, 2021 has just been a whirlwind. It's like everything is back in normal pace, like what it was pre-pandemic, right? And and I feel like we're all running so hard because we have so much less time to take care of, right? We've got to get caught up from 2 years of not as much going on. And so there is such a rush to get it all done and to make it all happen. And again, if you're anything like me, which you probably are, if you're listening to this show, you're a lot like me. And you just go, you do all the things and you stay busy, you stay productive, you do everything, you check things off that list, right? But I am telling you, it can get exhausting too. Okay. And so, I'll admit that I love a good weekend getaway. It doesn't take much to make me happy. However, this summer, oh my gosh, we've got a lot going on. In fact, by the time this episode releases, I'm going to be on a cruise somewhere in Alaska, which is crazy. And yes, Dad, if you listen to this, I realize old people take trips to Alaska. And I'm only 47 years old. And I know I'm not that old, but hey, might as well enjoy Alaska while I could still rock and get around, right? Anywho, I digress. My dad gave me a hard time about going to Alaska in my 40s because it's an old person thing. And I think it'll be great. I'm very excited about it. Anyway, I'm not the kind of person who typically requires a 2-week long European vacation or anything like that. I mean, honestly, this 9-day cruise that I'm on, 8-day cruise and a couple of days in Vancouver, that's a long time for me. That's a really long time for me. Typically just a night or two away and unplugging it just does my spirit so much good. I don't know about you all, but I'll probably have to ask in my stories. I'm curious who requires more than 4 days away in order to really unplug, but I can unplug pretty quick. Anyway, my dad always talked about working hard and playing hard. And even during the 80s oil bust, which I grew up in Oklahoma, and the 80s oil bust was a big thing. A big, huge bank closed, shut down like immediately overnight. And everybody lost just millions and millions of dollars. And my family was one of them. And so even during that period of time when, I don't know, financially, everything was just so bleak. It was so bleak. And nobody knew like when things were coming back around again. People were losing jobs left and right. You couldn't find a job to save your life in the state of Oklahoma. But I remember my dad always making vacations a priority. Like even when we didn't have anything. I remember my mom telling me later on when I was in my 20s, maybe it was in my 30s, I can't remember, but I remember her telling me that there were a couple of years where like money was so tight, that dad had to put our vacation on a credit card, not knowing when he was going to be able to pay it off because he was so convicted that taking a break for our family and reconnecting as a family was so critically important. So I grew up with that. I grew up thinking that and knowing that about my family. And so it's a thing for me as an adult. And it's harder when you have kids because let's be honest. I mean, if you're like me, which you probably are, and you've got kids at home, a vacation, I'm talking about a vacation away from children because there is no such thing as a vacation with children. That's called a trip. I'm going to fill you in on some grammar here, or at least the Heather Dictionary. And a trip implies time away from your home with children. A vacation implies time away from your home without the responsibility of children. So let's just be clear as to what a trip and a vacation is. All right. But anyway, nevertheless, we would always have a family vacation. And my dad always made that financial sacrifice for our family because, looking back now, we needed it as a family because life was so difficult. It was so hard. And I said needed it, not just wanted it. Okay. There's a big difference between need and want. We all know that, right? But our family had a deep need to reconnect once a year. life, my parents' business. It was hard during that staging phase of our life. And my dad knew that spending a few days away from the hustle and grind of it all would help reset our minds and renew our spirits. And it did. It just did. It's funny that all those things that he did for our family as I was growing up, when you're going through the motions of it as a kid, you have no idea. Not a clue is what the implications of doing that and what that would actually do for you as an adult. You have no idea what that did for you as a kid, right? So he knew, of course, way more than I did, still does at this point, but nevertheless, so a few times a year, if not more, I make sure that we take a few days to unplug because it's just necessary in order to grow. Okay. It's just necessary. But this takes some planning though. Okay. You know, as well as I do, that weeks just fly by. And if you don't get intentional with your calendar, it will own your butt. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. The meetings, the presentations, all of the networking events, all of the things that we're all doing now, your calendar will own you. I need to do an episode on how your calendar should not own you. You should own your calendar. I think I've written a blog post about that, but oh my gosh, let me tell you, I have time blocks on my Google Calendar. Like you cannot create a meeting request with me. You cannot schedule something on my calendar appointment because I have certain blocks of time that I just have off because either A, I want to go play golf. B, I have to have time with my children. C, I've got, stuff that my husband and I want to do together. And I intentionally block off that time for doing the things that I want to do, or else your calendar, y'all, it will completely own your rear and you will not know which way is up. You've got to make those blocks on your calendar. So you've got to flip the switch. You've got to take a break, get out your calendar and find some time to unwind, take the kids to grandma's house. If you can't go somewhere because money is tight, been there, done that. Single mama, 3 kids living in an apartment. I know what that's like. All right. Stay home and find something fun to do or just relax. I'm a big fan of getting away from kids as well too. Okay. So take them to grandma's. If you have a friend, swap out time. Oh my gosh. I would do that with a friend of mine back in Oklahoma when I lived there and I was single and had 3 kids in an apartment with me. I had a dear friend who we would swap out. I would take her kids. She was married, but her husband was gone a lot. I would take her kids on occasion, and then she would take my kids on occasion just to give me a break, even if it was just for a few hours. We need to unplug. We need to unwind. We need to reset our brains so our creativity can snap back in again. Okay. I realized we were just starting to get out from underneath this pandemic and the economic shutdown, but now more than ever, we need a break because I don't know about you, but everything has been on fast forward lately, right? And here's the thing, I promise you this much, okay? When you're able to get away, take a step back, take a break, go do something outside of your normal routine, that creativity and your renewed sense of spirit will it'll work wonders for you, both personally and professionally as well. It always does, and anymore, and I know that this episode is about taking a break and vacations and all of that, but I'm going to encourage you to maybe take it one step further. How can you carve out 2 to 3 hours in your calendar once a week to do things that you want to do? For me, I've been trying to be very intentional about going and playing some golf, once a week. And if it's not once a week, maybe it's once every other week or whatever. But taking that time, not just once a quarter or once a year for the vacation, but what can you do intentionally throughout the week to take time out to do something different? Because we all need to step away from the darn computer and do something different in order to spark that creativity again. I work by myself, even though my team, I've got some people in North Carolina who help me. I love them. I've got my girl gang of entrepreneurs, that we're on text threads and we meet via Zoom and all of that fun stuff. But sometimes I just need to be able to go. I'll go and meet my friend Keely in Fort Worth, and we will just have a work day together, a change of pace, a change of scenery. I think that's really what I'm getting at. You've got to take your time to unplug, but even on the regular, you got to take time to just get a change of scenery. Just get a change of scenery, do it different, go to a coffee shop, plug in there. But I'm telling you from a creative perspective, because I've done this, y'all, I've done this for over 2 years now at this point. And I can tell you for 100% certainty, in fact, that my brain does not operate at the same level and functionality if I'm at home every single day by myself without a break and without seeing people and without having a little bit of fun mixed in. So how can you mix some fun into your life, into your business? And I encourage you to do it. All right, that's it for today. I'm waving at you from my cruise line in Alaska and wishing you the absolute best.